Welcome to episode 1 of the Great Southern Brainfart interview podcast. I am your host, Don, the Great Southern Brainfart de Lamont. Thank you so much for joining us. This is episode 1 featuring Mike Blothar Bishop from Gwar. As you all know, Mike Blothar Bishop took the place of our dearly departed Dave Odorous Urungus Brocky when he passed away, and has since been Gwar's main man and front man. This was a really fun interview. It was a different interview. I thought I was going to be interviewing Blothar, but as it turned out, I woke up Mike from a nap of some sorts and ended up talking with Mike Bishop. And to be totally honest, I actually thought it was really great. It was really cool to talk to Mike out of character and to hear some of his really honest, faithful and true thoughts and feelings and opinions on Gwar's past, present, and future. He talked very openly about his relationship with Dave. It was a great interview. It was a great time talking to him, and I think that this is a great way to kick things off. So without further ado, let's welcome Mike Blothar Bishop to the Great Southern Brainfart interview podcast, episode 1. You were actually the first guest on what's going to be my first podcast ever. So how does that feel?
Feels great, I hope that I can get things off to a roaring start, that, people don't fucking kill themselves out of boredom like they usually do with a podcast.
But I had to say, congratulations on putting out Blood of Gods. That was a fucking great record, man. You have to be proud of it, right?
Yeah, we're very pleased with the record, yes. I think we did exactly the record that we needed to make. So we're happy with it. And, we had help making it. The producer, Ronan Chris Murphy, helped a lot. And better than most records that Gwar's made. It had to be that way. We didn't really have a choice.
For being a longtime Gwar fan, I have to say, listening to this album, one of the things I really loved the most was the fact that it was definitely kind of not a full-on throwback, but it definitely kind of harkened back to that old vibe of Gwar, where it was a little more, I don't know, what's the word, just kind of loose and fun, you know what I mean? Was that kind of like a purposely done thing, or did that just happen very naturally?
Kind of both. I mean, we really had to do something different than what the band would do with Dave, because, Dave was not there anymore.
Right.
So we had to make a record that didn't try to sort of replicate what the band had been doing over the past several records, which was basically thrash metal with a weird singer doing funny lyrics, funny stuff.
Right.
It needed to be something different. And so we went in with the idea that we were going to do something different. And I think, the word that you might be looking for, too, is it's loose and it's funny, but it's also very ensemble oriented. It's a group of people making a funny record. And there's a lot of input on the record from a lot of other sources. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, kind of the answer, that part happened very naturally. So while it was very deliberate trying to do something that sounded different and that wasn't a death or a speed metal, thrash metal record, in so doing, we kind of just went, it wound up going back to the way that we did records before the band started thrash metal records.
Right.
It's more of a group effort. And that was true, really up until maybe Violence had arrived. Carnival of Chaos is a great example. It's like a record with a lot of different people singing, a lot of different people writing, a lot of different people being involved in making the record. That's kind of the throwback element, I think.
Well, yeah, because it also kind of goes back to the old Gwar philosophy, too, right? Of the whole, kind of being an artist commune of sorts, where everybody kind of threw their thing, shit in the pot, so to speak, and then just stirred it up and saw what happened, obviously there's going to be Gwar fans out there, and I'm sure there still are, that are going to have shit to say about this not being an Odorous album. How has that affected you at all, if at all? And how do you guys roll with that?
There's really nothing we can do about it. You know, it's like there's if people want, I really kind of think that like those folks they're fans of Dave Brockie. They're fans of Odorous. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know that they're fans of Gwar. They're I hate to say it that way, but that's really kind of how it plays out, man. There isn't very much that we could do about it. You know, like Dave the guy died.
Right. Yeah.
So either we're going to keep putting out records and keep trying and do stuff, or we're not. You know? And you know, we decided to keep going, and I think that you know, we did our part. You know, we delivered a record that kicks ass and that demonstrates what we knew all along, which is that, I mean, I don't think people understood how Gwar worked.
Right.
You know, they thought that, you know, because Odorous was the center of attention, they thought that he was the one who was producing everything. He was the one who was writing everything. He was the one who was building everything and coming up with all the ideas. And that's just, it was never true. So, as far as that criticism goes, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I mean, we just don't pay attention to it. It's because there's nothing. I mean, you know, there isn't a single person who wouldn't rather have this be different, including myself. Like, you know, there isn't anybody who's like stoked that Odorous is gone. You know?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, obviously, that everybody would be happier. You know, myself included, if he were back. I mean, if I were going to be in this band again, I would always picture myself as the character that I built and created and playing bass guitar. You know? Right. But like, so there isn't. You know, so nobody's thrilled about the fact that the guy's gone in the band. And it's weird though. Like, you know, I think people are just fucking stupid, honestly. I mean, I know they're stupid. Like, the fact that we have the president is indication enough that they're stupid. But like, you know, they I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, you know, but to kind of echo what you were talking about, like, it's funny because I interviewed Dennis Dunaway last year, you know, from the original Alice Cooper group, and he said something, you know, similar to what you were saying, you know, is that, like, you know, when you have an iconic lead singer and front person that kind of pulls all the attention, everyone kind of looks to that person and assumes, okay, you are everything that's going on. But they don't realize that there's like 4 other guys that are, you know, that are a strong part and a strong creative force of what they're seeing. And so to kind of rule everybody else out is so unfair. And I do agree with what you said. I you know, from, like I said, I've been a Gwar fan since 1990. So I'm a Gwar fan. I loved Dave, and obviously I'm sad he's gone, but I'm a Gwar fan, you know, so to see you guys carrying on was huge for me, you know, and so that's why I was curious to hear from you about what other people thought like that.
No, I mean, I think that's right, that, like, you know, that there are people who, I don't know, I mean, what's more surprising to me are people who fetishize Corey so that you get these people who are like, well, yeah, it's, you know, I mean, without Corey and Dave, it's not Gwar. That's the fucking stupidest thing that I've ever heard in my life. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, frankly, I mean, I think that Gwar never got further away from what it was supposed to be than it was with Corey writing the songs. And I mean, that doesn't mean that he wasn't a great musician. He was, absolutely.
Right.
But, like, you know, but Gwar started, you know, under his tutelage, the band started adhering to the strictures of genre rather than stretching those strictures and trying to do something new that was different. To me, that's not how I thought the band should be ever. And for people to kind of, I thought it was cool. Like what they came up with was great. That guy wrote really inspired sounding metal. There's no question about it.
Right.
But what wound up happening was that, to me anyway, it's just really odd. Even people saying that just about Dave, and most of this time, those same people, their criticism would be that this record, it's not metal, man. It's not a metal record. It's just not a metal record, which is it's just stupid. It's just patently fucking stupid. But A, because it is a metal record. But B, because why do you expect Gwar always to spit out something that is immediately recognizable as metal, and that you say to yourself, oh, yeah, this sounds like everything else, but it's a little different because you have a cool singer making funny lyrics. And, it's just not, to me, that's not what Gwar was or what it should be, and that's why this record sounds more like America Must Be Destroyed, or more like Scum Dogs, or more like This Toilet Earth, because it's, the band sort of stretching genre and really drawing on its influences from Richmond, Virginia, and its life as a punk band, and all that stuff. And to me, Gwar, that's the other thing people don't understand, because they have a limited view of what the band is. They don't understand that, the first year of Gwar shows that I saw, so which is the first 4 shows that I saw before I was in the band, Dave wasn't the singer.
Right, yes.
There was another singer, and there were 2 other singers, and one was really good. One was the guy who, to me, was the voice of Gwar, no question. The idea that Dave would sing was really just, oh, okay, so this is going to be Death Piggy with costumes on. That's not cool. That doesn't seem new. And you can pick up on that anxiety, like Rocky's anxiety over whether or not he was going to be the singer. If you read that extended thing that he wrote, I can't even remember what it was called, but it's still online. You can find it. It's The Onrushing Grip of Death.
Yes,
which
I remember
that. Yeah. In typical Rocky fashion, knowing that Bob Gorman was writing the book, Rocky decided, I'm going to write this parallel thing that tells kind of my story to it, and it's good. It's really good. It's entertaining writing, because Rocky was a good, he's a funny guy. But in it, you really pick up on that anxiety that he wasn't sure, that he should be the guy moving forward. That was standing in front of the band.
Right.
He had a lot of ideas for it, but Joe Anaruma had a funny, what you got was something a lot different. There was it's a lot different. And the only way people can come close to knowing that aren't from Richmond, Virginia, and saw those shows is listening to the Let There Be Gwar record and then listening to Hello.
Right.
Hello is a funny record. It's got a lot of good stuff on it, but it was also a real fucking disappointment. Having recorded that record and sitting back and listening to it, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this really fucking sucks. This isn't good, And there wasn't very much I could do about it. I was 18 years old, so it wasn't me that sucked. I did what I was supposed to do.
You played bass.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that you say that, though, because that album, was my first introduction to Gwar, and I just remember thinking, this is bad. This is not really very good. But then all of a sudden I heard Scum Dogs, and I was like, is this even the same band?
band, So it really, in my mind, when I think of the progression of Gwar, I think, hello, scum dogs, America must be destroyed. And to me, This Toilet Earth was aside, as much as I love this one, to be honest, it's my favorite one. This is my favorite one since that album, which to me, and I know I'll get a lot of shit for this, but was the last great Gwar record, was that one, because I felt like that was a metal record. That was experimental. There was all kinds of cool different things going on with it. And to be honest with you in the fold now, I feel like you're more of a metal singer now in Gwar than Dave was for probably the past 15 years or so, because, again, as big of a fan as I am, I'm not going to not say this, but I always felt like Dave kind of phoned it in vocally, especially live, where it wasn't that enjoyable for me to hear a lot of the songs live, Yeah.
Oh no, he definitely did. I mean, you don't have to argue that. All you have to do is pull it up on YouTube, and it's apparent. I mean, even people that idolize Rocky understand that. There are some songs that I can't even try to do because they were done so well, and that I wouldn't want to fuck with them. And to me, the record where Rocky was maybe at his peak in Gwar, so where he's actually using what he had as a singer, which is, he had a bag of tricks. He had a natural instrument, right? He had a baritone, which is an extremely valuable range to have as a rock singer. I don't have it. I have to work hard to do what I do. And, so he had that natural sort of, Iggy Pop, Elvis, Danzig baritone, right? It's a low voice. And then, on top of that, he had just a very loose and crazy, erratic kind of style. But where he kind of reaches his peak, I think, it is Carnival of Chaos. That's the record. And I wasn't in the band anymore. I had left. But, that's when you hear Dave doing Odorous as well as I think it could have been done. And writing great songs too, like that song "Interfere," which is really good, and other tunes on that record. But that went away really after that record. You can hear this kind of downward slide in I don't know, things just got different. And there are things that, like you said, this sort of live performance element, for whatever reason, Dave was, like you said, I don't think he was doing as well as he could have done in these live performances. Vocally, one of the reasons that the record is different is that there is more room in the vocals for the music, and the vocals don't take from the music the kind of they don't sit on top of it. They are inside of it, even in the mix, right? It's and that's very important, in allowing the music to have the focus. And really, that's always the way that I've done songs. It's always the way I've written songs. All the songs that I wrote for Gwar, that I wrote the vocals for, were like that. And all of the songs that I ever did with any other band were like that. But Rocky he had a lot to say, and he added a lot of words. And, there's definitely songs that the band wrote that had a lot of fucking potential, that, once they went through that machine, they became something else. It's okay, well, now this is no longer sort of a great kind of, melodic hard rock song. Now it's a funny song that's hard rock with a lot of words that are really funny on it, you know,
right.
and that's different than like being interested in hooks and leaving room for a record for music to breathe and all of that stuff. You know, it's a different kind of focus.
Oh yeah, like I think one of the best examples of that is like what you're like even as you're talking, like the first song that came to my head was Gwar, you know, where like that song had so much musical dynamic to it that I just like even now I just remember I can just see like myself thinking like I wish they would tap more into that. Do you know what I mean? Because there was so much, like to me that was, and like you said, like as funny as the song was and as kind of fun as it was, like there was some serious play in that song, you know, where I was like, wow, like if anyone ever doubted that Gwar could play, that was the song to me that I was like, they understand dynamic, you know what I mean? And then unfortunately, it you know, and then we got some of that again on this Toilet Earth, but like you said, it kind of just dissipated and went away, and I would have loved to have seen more of that. So like, with you back in the band, are you going to try to bring some of that back again? Because I mean, I heard it on this album a good bit.
It's not trying. It's just like, it's just, that's how I do music. And so it's just going to be that way. Like, I mean, and it's not, you know, it's just different than what it has been. I mean, and it's not a coincidence, you know, it's like, I mean, it's just like, if I'm going to be a central writer, then it's just that's what it's going to sound like. I mean, it's like, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just what I do, you know, is different than what Dave did. And so, and you know, when both of us were in the band at the same time, you know, it was the same way. I mean, I had a lot of frustration actually when I was in the band, and like, I don't know, like go listen to Litany of the Slain, right? Like listen to, that's a Gwar song. I know a lot about Gwar with me in it and with me not in it. And because it was my job, you know, when I was tapped to do this, to figure out what was going on. And I listened a lot, and I'm a trained musicologist. So like, you know, I made some observations that I think are right about Gwar. And the band, I think, had the vocals were, in a way, here's the thing. If you have a band, if you have Slayer, right, and they're playing, you know, Rain and Blood, right, but Rain and Blood was called Purple People Eater, right? Then like people would react to it as if, well, this band's a joke,
right?
This band's a joke, you know, and like, that's kind of the dilemma that Gwar had in a lot of ways, and always has had. And I would actually like to fix that. And you know, and at least to some degree, I would like to fix that. I would like for people to listen to it and think of it as, you know, this is really good fucking rock and roll. I'm not saying that it has to be serious and that it has to be like Slayer, but like, I think that that's why the band has been dismissible in some ways. And like, and the guys who are the musicians in this band don't deserve that. They didn't deserve it at any point. At no point has this, no matter what the lineup has been, it's always been a top-notch group of musicians working at the peak of their ability. And people haven't noticed it, and they haven't recognized it. So like, you know, I mean, there's that, and then there's like, you know, so I mean, that's one example that I would use. Like, but then, you know, I mean, besides that, there's also the idea that, you know, you can be, I mean, a lot of the songs that I wrote before were funny and were really gross for Gwar, but they also all had something else in common, though, which is that they were all kind of the songs that had some kind of sort of, they had a lot of melodic hooks in them.
Right.
You know, rock and roll never felt so good. That's a song that I wrote the vocals for. The Road Behind, you know, like,
right.
So like, I mean, those tunes had that sort of drive that, you know, there was a vocal drive to them. And so, I mean, I think that like the shit that we're doing now, it's just going to naturally be that way. You know, and then there's some different writers in the band as well. I mean, you've got, Pustulus is writing, he writes a lot of good metal that I think is in a lot of ways more interesting, like a kind of metal than, and certainly more developed, more a cleaner sounding, more developed metal sound than what the band had, even on like a record like Beyond Hell.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things adding to that mix.
Yeah, because, you know, one of the things I always I've been so fascinated with the fact that, you know, you're a musicologist, and I watched some interviews. I even watched your TED Talk, which I thought was fucking great, you know. But like, one of the things that I always loved about Gwar too was the fact, and not to use the Alice Cooper thing, but the reason why I use the Alice Cooper thing is because, as far as a comparison, is because what I always loved about Alice Cooper was that he had this way of diving into like political and social commentary with kind of like, you know, a little cheeky edge to it. Do you know what I mean? To make it kind of, you know, funny and entertaining, but yet there was some seriousness to it. And there was a lot of that in Gwar that just happened to be so scattered through Gwar. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a lot of it all at one time. Is that kind of what you're hoping to bring more of into Gwar? Is to have that kind of not so much overly serious, but like not so overly outrageous?
I don't know. I mean, that sounds a little... That doesn't sound exactly right. It's like, I mean, I just want to leave more room in the music with the words so that, like, people focus on the music. I mean, because it's not mysterious. It's like, why do people think that this band is a joke? Well, it's because you've got hilarious lyrics that just kind of lay on top of everything and, like, and don't leave any room for the music to come through. And, you know, so I wanted to do that differently, that one specific thing.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, right.
Yeah, as far as the content goes, like, you know, trying to find, I mean, you are hinting at something that is true, which is that, like, when Gwar is working at its best, it's both hilarious, like, oh, wow, that's funny, and it's also terrifying. Like there's something about it that's like, that's extremely disturbing.
Oh, absolutely.
And upsetting. And so, like, you know, to get those two things at the same time, that's sort of the aesthetic that I'm going for. You know, and it's just because that's what I liked best about Gwar. Always was like, well, yeah, it's really funny, but the music is really good, and there's kind of this element to it that's not funny at all. It's very serious social critique, and like, right. You know, and I do think, and I am proud of the fact that, like, you know, I mean, long before, like with or without me, this band has mounted a very serious critique of modern culture, and it's done that all along. And it, you know, when it stops doing that, and it becomes something more like, you know, if it like it can't be a serious band, you know, like, right. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should always be what it is, like, you know, which is different and challenging and, you know, interesting, but definitely not, you know, serious like Slayer or serious like any kind of fucking black metal. I mean, like, you know, I mean, I love the sound of black metal. I love the way it sounds. I can't stand this air of, and that's actually something that's cropped back up all over metal that Gwar needs to fucking smack down, you know, which is this the idea of taking yourself seriously. Like,
oh, absolutely.
It's just fucking stupid. And I mean, it's the worst.
Well, that's why I thought it was so funny was when you were talking about Slayer. Like I was refraining from interjecting, but I was like, you know, like if you really step back and you listen to people like Slayer, or even like going to black metal like Watain, you know, and stuff like that, like those lyrics are like borderline hilarious because they're like so serious, but like at the same time, it's just like, you know, it's kind of like laughing at your dad who's telling a serious story, and you're like, you sound so stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, where it's like
serious, but they're stupid.
Right. Where I'm just like, just be stupid. You know what I mean? It's just like just be stupid and let me laugh at you, but don't try to. You know, it's like I always wonder, like when people listen to these things, I'm like, do people buy into that? You know what I mean? Like it's like, you know.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm not sure what the answer is.
Well, I only have a few more topics, but one of the things I wanted to bring up was you obviously brought up our president earlier. Well, I hate to call him our president because I hate him, but anyway, how is Gwar faring these days in Trump Nation?
You know, I mean, Gwar is doing just fine. You know, Trump comes on stage every night and we rip his guts out and smack him around. But, you know, I mean, it's funny because everybody thought, well, you know, man, now punk rock will take off again because they finally got somebody to react against, you know, like, but I mean, that's not happening because I don't know. I don't think in a world where punk rock mattered, Trump would be president anyway. And I mean, it's just, you know, it's just a fucking sad state of affairs. So the people, you know, like Gwar, of course, like just sort of takes advantage of it and looks at it like, you know, creating an opportunity for them for the band to step into the void and like assume leadership, you know, or you know, but Trump is in a lot of ways like the greatest Gwar candidate, you know. It's like that's what Gwar would probably do if we were president, you know. It's, like,
it's just like do the most like insane shit.
Yeah, just be bored and do everything radically different than what has been done before, and just flouting tradition,
like make up words.
Then, you know, but the thing is that he does that's so brilliant is that he somehow makes everybody think that all of this destruction of tradition, that it's all actually bringing things back to what they used to be. And I don't know how he does that sleight of hand. Like he just convinces the people that follow him that, you know, he's a conservative force rather than a destructive force. And, you know, they can't see that. And it's very impressive. I mean, you know, Gwar has never seen the day that it was as surreal and as manipulative as Trump.
It's like never have you seen a time where Gwar would be so close to actually being president. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Because it's so funny, because it's like, you know, like, of course, everybody's just, like, watching this shit unfold, and everyone's questions are like, is this really fucking happening? Like, at what point is, like, you know, someone going to come out and they go, hi, I got you, you know what I mean? Like, it's not happening. It's like, this is for real, you know?
Yeah, he's a Gwar president.
He's a Gwar president. He absolutely is. Well, so you guys are about to wrap up this tour. It was a big success, obviously. What are you looking to do now? Are you going to take some time off, do another swing in 2018, or like what?
Yeah, we're going to wrap this tour up probably. I don't know. I think that in fall we have some more regional stuff after this, and going to Australia. But I think that, like, you know, after that, it's definitely going to be. We'd like to try to go to Europe. You know, we've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that we're trying to make it happen. You know, in fall of next year, we're going to do another tour, and hopefully by that time we'll have a record that's in the works and would come out the next year after that. So that's what we're doing.
And what about the future of the Gwarbecue? Do we see another one of those happening maybe this summer, or has it been kind of put to rest for a while?
It's kind of been put to rest. If it does happen this summer, then it'll be a very scaled back event. Like, we're not going to try to get a bunch of bands that, cost a lot of money to play it. I mean, it's
right.
It'd have to be a better focused event. That we were just kind of the cost of talent for that thing was going up way too much. We're not making any money, losing money, so there's no reason to do it.
Oh yeah. But, and then it stops being fun once it starts to become overly business.
Right? Yeah, definitely. So we might try to scale it back and make it easier. But we'll see.
Well, that's great, man. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today, man. It's I enjoyed our interview the last time you were in Atlanta, and I'm sorry I missed the show here in Atlanta. I was sick, but I'm glad you took the time to talk, and I always enjoy it, and I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Yeah, man. Thank you. No problem.
All right, man. Well, look, have a good rest of the tour, and good luck out there, and thanks again.
Thank you. All right.